Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane was not prudent when she did her investigation on the Vrede Dairy Farm. This is according to the Democratic Alliance. The party says the report should be set aside on the grounds that it's superficial and it is misleading. It has advanced these arguments at the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, where the party is also asking that the Public Protector be held personally liable for the costs. Judgment on this case has been reserved, and James Selfe, the DA's Federal Executive Chair, joins us from our parliamentary studios to discuss this further. James, thank you very much for being our guest here on Morning Live.
Thanks for having me.
So, just take us through what has been happening over the past 2 days.
Well, we, as you said, have been taking the Public Protector to court to review and set aside her report on the Vrede Dairy project. We believe that the report is dangerously superficial. It does not draw the right inferences. And in that process, it actually brings the office of the Public Protector into disrepute. So our legal team and that of Kazakh argued very strongly that that was the case. Yesterday, we heard from the Public Protector's legal team. She arrived there with 5 advocates. Then yesterday afternoon, our teams wrapped up and judgment was reserved until hopefully later this month or maybe next month.
Yeah. The DA says that the report produced was substantially changed. So I suppose the question that needs to be asked is which information has been added or omitted on this particular report?
Well, there was a draft report that was produced by Thuli Madonsela. And it had material information in it, which the Public Protector either watered down or simply ignored. Amongst other things, the whole issue about what constituted this particular private-public partnership, whether it was within the ambit of Treasury regulations, but critically, who was actually responsible for this, and whether those people ought to have been disciplined and by whom they ought to have been disciplined. And then there was the whole question about what should happen by way of follow-up. So Thuli Madonsela said that the matter should be referred to the Auditor General and to the SIU. There are no such recommendations in the final report. So it really goes nowhere and it leaves us in the dark.
Yeah.
And this was a scandal of major proportions. This was money intended for the poor. It's been siphoned off to persons unknown, and seemingly no one is responsible for it.
Yeah. You know, the response from the Public Protector, and as you emphasized, her 5 advocates, basically saying that the DA doesn't have a case and Kazakh do not have a case.
Yeah, well, that was a very superficial response on behalf of their teams. They sought to pick holes in our argument, but frankly, very unconvincingly. And then, as is the case when somebody has no case, accused us of playing politics with it. Well, it has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with the defense of a constitutional institution and its reputation.
I want to turn our attention to what happened a little bit earlier this week, and I think that this was quite a devastating story, where it was reported that Philemon Mgwenya, one of the Vrede Farm project whistleblowers, was found dead. Is there any further information to come out of this yet?
Unfortunately, none that I'm aware of. It was devastating news, and I really hope it's not a pattern where, because these whistleblowers actually let the truth be exposed, that they are suffering the ultimate penalty, because that has a very chilling effect on whistleblowers anywhere.
I mean, this is not the only controversial question mark around this particular case and report. I know that the DA also wanting police to investigate the motive and killing, to expose Moses Chake, an auditor in the Free State Department of Agriculture, who, you know, as far as we know, was kidnapped, tortured and killed after questioning payments linked to the Vrede Dairy Farm. Why do you associate his death with the project? Why do you think there's a link there?
Well, anybody who was involved in this case, either directly or peripherally, may very well have been targeted for assassination. I believe that the people involved in the misappropriation of this money are totally ruthless, which is why it's very important that during this judicial process and through any subsequent investigation by the Hawks or the Auditor General, that we do finally get to the source of where this money went to and to whom it was given. Because I think once one's followed the trail of the money, one will be able to establish the linkages with these suspicious deaths.
Basically what you are asking for, and let's get to the bottom of what you're asking for with regard to this report. You're wanting the whole thing to be set aside, and you're basically asking the court to now act as the public protector.
Well, not really. We're certainly saying that the public protector in respect of this report was totally incompetent and that the report isn't worth the paper it's written on. We're asking that it be set aside, but we're not asking that it be remitted back to the public protector, because I don't think she's capable of producing anything better. What we do want is for this investigation to be handed to competent people who in this criminal justice system, who are able to make the linkages, follow the money, arrest the perpetrators, and convict them. That's what we're asking for.
Yeah. I mean, you go on to say that the public protector was not prudent in her investigation, and that senior politicians that were implicated were not even interviewed during the investigation.
That's correct. There's a very clear link between what went on in that particular project and the then Premier of the Free State, Mr. Makashule, and the then MEC for Agriculture, Mr. Zwane. Now, how can you go and have an investigation like this, produce a report like this, and not investigate the very people who gave the instructions, who gave the go-ahead for these things to occur? It's absolutely bizarre. And it's for that reason that we have asked the court to award a personal and punitive cost order against the public protector herself, because she's quite lamentably failed to do her duty, and then the court needs to send out a message that this is totally unacceptable.
One thing that the DA has always been very outspoken about the public protector, and she's never been your choice of public protector, and you've been vocal about her, and hence the reason why many are saying, and I know you've alluded to it, but perhaps you can touch on it again, about the fact that the DA is politicking here.
Yeah, well, we go to court a great deal. We go to court before elections, we go to court after elections, between elections, and we do so because going to court is one of the very useful things that an opposition party can do in order to expose corruption. We have tried to do this in the Free State legislature at great length, at committee meetings, in debates, through questions and so on. But there's been a great deal of stonewalling, and the consequence has been that we had to go to court because that was the only institution left to us to expose what had actually happened and to make sure that the requisite people faced the penalties that they should face.
Yeah. You also argue that the report doesn't name anybody that's been implicated, that, as you mentioned, the ANC's Ace Makashule, Mozobenzi Zwane, you say it makes no mention of the Guptas and all of this stuff, very much so in the public domain. And you're feeling that she may be hiding things and that is not being open with this report.
No, absolutely. The most bizarre thing of all is that in the course of 2017, a mass of material became available in the form of the Gupta leaks. Those properly analysed showed the linkages that should exist between senior politicians and this particular project and linked them to the Guptas. And that was not dealt with at all in the report. Very, very disappointingly. And as a consequence, the report and the Office of the Public Protector were badly affected.
Yeah. So to wrap up, as you say, now we've got to wait and see what the court decides on this.
The judge did mention that she would try and prioritise this because she understands the public importance of this particular action, and we hope to get a judgment certainly before the end of the year, and then we hope that we will get the order that we were seeking.
All right, we'll leave it there for this morning. Thanks very much for talking to us. That's James Selfe, the DA's Federal Executive Chair, joining us from our parliamentary studios, talking about the Public Protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, and accusing her of not being prudent when she did her investigation on the Vrede Dairy Farm. That issue was in court this week. All right, let's take a break.